a few pointers that I've had an experience in paleontology some years ago, and that was actually in February the 1st, 1930, when I first started my employment with the Smithsonian. But it has a better background than that might be of some interest to some of you, and that is the fact how I got into the Smithsonian. You just don't walk in, sign the papers, and that's it. So I was at the old Boy Scout Camp Roosevelt on the Chesapeake Bay way back when, and I was picking up a few shark's teeth along the shore of the Chesapeake Bay there. That's the Calvert Cliffs, the famous Calvert Formation of fossils of all kinds. There's porpoise, and there's sharks, and there's whales, you name them, all along that coast. And so one day I just happened to be walking along the beach, and I happened to see some peculiar looking bones sticking out of the formation, and I didn't know what they were, and if I did get them, I didn't know what to do with them. But the more I dug on it, the worse it got, and then finally I dug out a long piece of bone there, with a lot of teeth in it. It looked like some kind of a skull to me, and so time came on, I took it to the Smithsonian, and that's where I met the late Charles W. Gilmore. He was a curator of vertebrate paleontology at the Smithsonian, and I took it in there to see him, see if he could tell me something about it. And so I walked in and just placed the bones I had there on the table, on the desk by the secretary, and it was a very short time that he came around and put his arm around me, glad to see me, and wanted to know what I had, and I showed it to him, and he told me that it was a fossil porpoise from the Calvert Cliffs. It has a very long name, Urinodelphus bossi. It was named after Norman H. Boss, the chief preparator at the Smithsonian at that time. And so it was named after him, and it simply means a long-beaked dolphin or a long-beaked porpoise. They're extinct now. And so he took me into the laboratory to show me around and how the men were preparing fossils. And I believe at that time is when the fossil bug bit me, that I wanted to be in that particular work. However, all that happened was the fact that shortly thereafter I left there. He had been with me for 3 or 4 hours, and I went on home, and several times I was back down there, but there came a day when the phone rang in my home, and it was Dr. Gilmore on the phone, and he wanted to know if I could come down. He wanted to talk to me for a short while, and I don't believe the man had his phone hung up before I was coming through the door. I was so excited about it. And so he talked to me for quite a little while, and then he finally sprung the news to me. He said, "How would you like to work here at the Smithsonian?" Well, you could have knocked me over with a dinosaur bone at that time. And of course I agreed and went to work there for him, and as I say, February the 1st in 1930. And that was with the old CWA, Civil Works Administration, and then the WPA, Works Progress Administration. So when the two of those had petered out and had no further use for any employment, I was told I'd have to get civil service status in order to continue my work at the Smithsonian. Well, after a few tries at some of the civil service examinations, I finally had one on biology, and I passed with sufficient mark that got me into the Smithsonian as full-time employment. And so I was there with them for quite a number of years, 27 years for that matter. Got up in the classification of the work, where I was doing a lot of preparatory work and having experience of being in the field helping to collect fossils and to prepare them, and one of the rare sides of it as to mounting different types of fossils, not just only the dinosaurs, but some of the others. And so in the course of time, why, I met some of the other great paleontologists. The top one that we can speak of is the Dr. Barnum Brown at the American Museum in New York. He was the curator of the Division of Vertebrate Paleontology there. I got to know him, and I got to know, of course, Charles W. Gilmore, and then Roy Chapman Andrews came into the picture. And I'd like to tell you about something about Roy Chapman Andrews. If we had more young men like him today, the things I think would be a lot better off.